we'll get into it, but some of the music sequences in this game are like top, you know?
Yeah, no, they are. Yeah, we'll get into it. Production value, so good.
Yeah.
Like even the one that's playing right now, I can't remember like what part of the game this was at, but this actually could be one of like the little arcade games or something. I'm not sure.
Wait, how do you? I'm actually gonna get that sound.
If you just click on the stream in the call here, you should be able to hear music. I might need to turn it up. You should hear some drums. Matt, do you hear it? Okay. So it's a Graham problem.
Yeah. I'm a boomer, so like it's all it's all confangled. Oh my god, I was getting so stressed the other day. What was I doing? I was trying to play Marathon for the first time and like with my friend who's like obsessed with it. And I just felt like the biggest boomer. It's like, how do I turn my mic up? How do I search?
I will say, I tried playing that too, and like even as someone who's like has played like games like that before, Marathon's like very intimidating. UI is like insane.
Yeah, and I'm definitely not like a Twitch gamer. Like that's honestly the first shooting or like even like what do you call it? This multiplayer game. Yeah. It's like I used to play Counter-Strike in like high school. That's like the last time I played.
Yeah, me too. And then I remember it used to make me so emotional. I'm like, why am I playing this?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. You like lose 5 times in a row. That's for sure happened in Marathon. I'm just like, why am I doing this?
Yeah, I was borrowing a VR headset, like I have been, and that is a little weird where it's been randomly beeping recently. And the thing is, I did borrow it, so I didn't go through like an intro setup or read a manual like maybe I really should, but it is bothering me that like I'm borrowing from my brother. Like I don't want to ask my brother, what is it doing? Like, how does this work? Like I feel like I'm like I should understand technology. Like it's a gaming device. I should know exactly how this works, but it's making weird noises every so often.
Yeah, you want to be concerned when something on your face is making weird noises.
Yeah, like weird beeps. Well, I mean, not even when I'm not wearing it is what's annoying, right? And then the problem is there's nothing. How do you debug a VR device? You have to look into it anytime to be like, hey, what are you doing? What's going on? And
yeah.
So it's just beeping away even like right now.
It was just the other day. I had a friend over.
It's locked away in a closet where we can't hear the beeps.
Yeah, with like a bunch of blankets on it.
Not right now, but yeah, it's just every so often. It's random.
Jeez.
Let me just double check who is showing up or who's expected, just to make sure. And it looks like everyone who said they're going to be here is here, plus more. So that's good. Okay, we can get started on a conversation. All right. Actually, before we start, let me lower the music so I can hear myself. Okay. I'm going to be reading off a script if it's not obvious. Okay. Hey, everyone. Thank you for joining for July's Game of the Month chat on Halibut. So generally how this works is we will introduce the Game of the Month with a little bit of basic trivia. The host, in this case me, will start with their initial thoughts, then ask the rest of the club some questions on the game, and I'll also be doing my best to moderate. So the game of August and September will be revealed at the end of the discussion. The reason why I say August and September is because this game will take place over the course of 2 months, and there's a few reasons for that, and we'll go over that at the end. So normally there's a vote, but in this case there will not be a vote. Yes, we'll explain more later. Also, while we're all yapping here about the game, please take advantage of the chat window here in this call. If you don't see it, it's a little bubble in the top right of your screen. It's great for like any like non-verbal types or whatever. And I'll also like keep an eye on it in case anyone has like a question or a point they want to bring to the discussion. You can see Nick and Matt using it right now. Matt, who is not here, but somehow in the chat. Okay, and there's no other upcoming events coming up, so there's not really much else to talk about. So let me move on to the main discussion. Oh, also, I want to welcome the new members, Anne and Ari. Thank you for being here.
Drawn to the dark, the damp.
All right.
Happy to be here.
Where the outside
Same.
world can leak into this place.
All right, so
home.
Harold Halibut. Currently, what you'll see on screen is like there's a bunch of trailers playing of the game, and on the bottom left is some fan art I found. Actually, is like pretty great.
It's
So I
not,
just wanted to showcase
it's
that.
not concept art? Like it's fan art?
No, this is fan art.
Oh, I thought it was concept art. I was like, whoa, this is cool.
Yeah, no, it's because it captures some moments that are like not even in the game, like Wee Woo on the giraffe.
By the way, the video's a little loud, I think.
Oh shit, the video is playing music?
Yes.
1 second. Okay. Do you hear the video still?
It's good now.
Okay, perfect. There should be no sound coming from it. Okay, so let's talk about Harold Halibut. I just wrote a little bit here I want to go over. So let's do a quick overview of how Harold Halibut came to be. So in the beginning, the idea for Harold Halibut began all the way back in 2012. And according to the developers, the project started as a conversation over dinner about their shared love of stop motion animation and story-driven games. They didn't originally set out to make a conventional indie game. They wanted to create something that felt like you were playing like a handcrafted stop motion film. And I think they achieved that. The game was developed by Slow Bros or Slow Brothers, a small indie studio based in Cologne, Germany. And interesting, the founders come from like a variety of creative backgrounds, like filmmaking, illustration, carpentry, sculpture, and apparel design, which kind of explains like the game's visual identity. And this world is handmade, if it's not obvious. So every character, prop, and environment was physically built by hand using materials like clay, wood, textiles, and metal. I think there's also a cool little behind the scenes video that will play up here in the top left, showing them like putting together some of those assets. So they photographed these models from like hundreds of angles using photogrammetry, turning the real world creations into digital 3D assets. And despite like looking like stop motion, the game isn't animated frame by frame. It's like scans of handmade models using Unity. And apparently this game took like 10 to 12 years to make. What else do we have here? One really cool detail is the developers of this game, they went with handmade models mostly because they weren't experienced 3D artists. So instead of trying to learn like complex modeling software, they like leaned into the skills they already had. So they built these physical objects, and then that limitation ultimately became the game's defining artistic identity, which is awesome because I think like in today's age, like, you know, we have access to unlimited resources, right? When it comes to like building a game, it wasn't like back in the day when like the technology was a bit more primitive, right? And so limitations breed creativity. So this is a case where like limitations continue to breed creativity because they're like, hey, we can't do complex 3D modeling, but we can make these cool, like, you know, claymation looking things. Let's make them, scan them into the game, and then go from there, which I think is like super admirable. All right. So with all that context in mind, let's get into it. So I would say Harold Halibut is like one of the most like visually distinctive games we've ever played. It's up there with stuff like Chants of Sonar, which I thought was like an incredible piece of art as well. But as we know, visuals can only take a game so far. And so what we're going to find out today is like, did the story, characters, and gameplay live up to the presentation? So my initial thoughts going into the game was like, I could kind of tell like, okay, this game is like a labor of love. And in some ways that's like to its detriment, because like you can tell like this game and these devs are like marching to the beat of their own drum, and they don't care what anyone else thinks. They have a vision and they want to see it through. And like you can see that comes through in like these scenes, like that scene with Buddy where you're reading through like the envelopes. Like it's not the most compelling thing, but like there's like there's an emotional hook there, and they're telling that story because they want to, you know. And towards the end, like things get a bit quirky, and maybe it's not ending the way you expect, but like it's extremely introspective. And, you know, these conversations we're seeing on screen, like they don't have to be all animated as well as they are, but they went that far. And it's wild that they decided, in my opinion, to like make a game and not just make like a film, because I feel like it would be up there with like, you know, the who are the filmmakers that make like Korra and the Two Strings, those other ones.
I think it's Leica.
Leica.
Or something
Yeah,
like that.
Leica. Yeah. Yes. That's what it feels like to me. But otherwise, like I will say, as I was playing it, I'm like, I have a lot of tolerance, I have a lot of patience. You know, I don't need to have like dopamine hits constantly, and like I want to see the story through. But as I was getting to like chapter 4 or 5, and I'm like, okay, this feels like it's not wrapping up because I can see there's still many days left before the launch. You know, I was like testing my patience, and I'm like, okay, I want to see it through. I'm watching the story and stuff, but in the end, you are kind of running from point A to point B, and so I am overall, I'm happy I played through it because I wanted to see it through to the end, and I think and in a weird way, like the slow pace of the game made me feel more immersed because I'm like, I feel like I'm Harold now, living this kind of like, you know, slow paced, quiet life. Um, but yeah, I just I think it made a lasting impression on me, despite like the gameplay being kind of limited. I also, I guess, before we get into the discussion, I should talk about like the premise, which is basically like this Noah's Ark type ship was launched from Earth because something catastrophic was happening, to go find like another planet to live on. Ultimately, the ship crash landed in some other planet, is like submerged underwater, and the people that we're playing as and we're seeing is the people that have been living on the ship for generations. So a lot of them were born on the ship and they haven't experienced anything else outside of the ship, and eventually they stumble upon extraterrestrial life and things take a toll. But yeah, I want to get into some other people's thoughts before we get too deep into the story, and it's not just me rambling the whole time. So Matt, we'll start with you. What were your initial thoughts going in, like, you know, the first few chapters of the game? What are you feeling?
I mean, I guess, it does at the start, you are very gobsmacked by the presentation, the quality, the visuals for sure. So, it takes a little bit of time for it to kind of soak in of, what's the gameplay hook, right? You're kind of waiting for I think one of the weirdest things, right? Did you guys all notice this? Like in that very first room, you can make that like thing drop down with all the sample food in it or whatever, and it's really strange, right? That they have that little bit of interactivity that, and then you see that and you're like, and it just has this look to it that you think like must be a puzzle, right? There must be something to this. And I almost feel like, yeah, that little first mechanic is almost a bad sign for the rest of the game, right? Because I think in that first moment it does nothing. You can't actually do anything with it. It's the only other thing interactive in the room. And then later you do have to go to it, and I think you go to it one time and just grab a thing out of it. There's no puzzle, there's no like checking what any of it is, like there's no detail, there's no thought behind it. And you just take it out and put it in a thing, and like that's it, right? And then that is unfortunately kind of how all of the tasks in the game end up, right? It's do one thing, go here to here. There's really not much challenge, not much brain power thought into it. So I don't know. Yeah, at first, it's very much a slow slope down, huh? Yeah.
Yeah, you're forced to go at its own pace, whether you want to or not. I was still looking forward to see like what was going to happen next, and even the stuff with Buddy, it's like I wanted to see it through, you know. Um, but yeah, you're right. That first, I did the same thing. That first switch you click that brings out like the fish or whatever, or the rocks or the samples. It's like it's almost misleads you into being like, oh, it's like an adventure game. I'm going to click on all these different things and see what they do, right?
It reminds me that this is getting maybe too in the weeds of like tiny weird little details, but there are even parts in that first area, that lab area, that you can go down the stairs and you can go around, and most of it actually gets used. I don't know if you guys remember, there's like one little manhole at the bottom that there's a sign that says too, like observatory or something.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure at no point you go in that. Like you'd think again, it's something your brain should be like remembering all the little details so that you can come back there later and do something about it. And like, no, never comes up. So unfortunately, I don't know. It's interesting because I think in the chat, I talked about, and we'll probably get more into it, right? But there's some parts of the game that you feel like they could have cut to thin it all out. But then there's stuff like that you do wonder, like, did they have things that were on the cutting room floor that didn't even make it? Then it's like, well, maybe that's for the best, actually.
Yeah. Graham, what was your impression of the voice acting?
Okay, so like I guess I'll kind of expand it to just like characters in general. Like some characters I loved, like Harold I loved, like pretty much from the get-go I liked him.
Yeah, actually touching on that. How would you describe Harold as a character? Because I feel like he's quite eccentric in a way, and I wonder if that's because he was like born on the ship and he has like interesting social skills.
Yeah, like he almost feels like an introvert in a way, and of course, like the story kind of
Yeah.
reflects that. Um, I'm gonna say,
Sorry, the voice
like,
voice
it's just
lines.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. So, like his voice, like just the voice acting itself was great. And I just love, because we've seen obviously like introverts in games before, obviously, but like the most, I don't know, believable or at least most interesting. Like, and this is just based off of his voice and kind of like how his character, like the vibe of his character, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
That I was sold on right away. Not so for everybody else necessarily, at least not from the get go. I was definitely most interested, obviously, in Wii U or Fishy,
Hmm.
just because it's like an alien. Obviously, there's got to
Yeah.
like you're interested in everything they're saying just because it's an alien. And then there were certain characters where it's like, okay, for instance, I'm forgetting some of their names, but like the Fabio guy, the
Oh, Chris.
Italian teacher guy. Like at first, I was like, oh my god, this is just like a one note, one two-dimensional character. But by the like, kind of like to sum it up, it's like all the characters by the end I became way more charmed with, and like especially when you're kind of doing your last tour of the station at the end, and you're
Yeah.
kind of saying good, kind of in a way goodbye to everybody. I was finding myself like going like, oh, I'm gonna miss like this family or this crew, for a lot of the characters, not every single one, but or more than I was expecting, especially in the first couple hours of playing.
Um, and I'll ask you, at what point in the story did you find yourself like emotionally invested?
I think it
So
was when, honestly,
Oh,
like, and I
sorry.
wish this happened. Oh, for me
Sorry,
or for
I was
Matt?
asking Anne, but you can answer too if you want.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I'll just quickly say, for me, it was when you finally get into the alien cave.
Hmm.
I think until then, I was like, oh my god, like, I was just getting honestly too bored to be invested because I was afraid if I'm getting too invested in the game's boring like this throughout, I've like wasted my investment or whatever. But when I finally got into the cave is when I'm like, okay, like now you got your hooks back into me.
Yeah. Okay, Anne, go ahead.
um, about the same. So also the way I went about the game is a little unique because I mean I joined last week this club and I discovered which game we were supposed to play. So I was like, oh, let me start playing it, take my time. So I took my time, and yesterday I realized I was actually only a third through the game and realized that if I wanted to see it through, I needed to like move to to watching a walkthrough. So halfway, like a third through, like roughly around when you reach the cave is when I started watching it as a video and feeling free to like skip when you do the back and forths, which
Hmm.
every time you go to the all water stuff. So I roughly when I could focus on the story just itself and the characters
Yeah.
and the interactions. So I don't know how much it correlates. I'm also a sucker for first contact stories and aliens in
Yeah.
general,
Yeah.
so that also helps. But yeah, to me the yeah, obviously the story starts to shine through when you meet Wii U and start to
Yeah.
understand the other culture and you start to vibe and you understand you have maybe more in common with that one alien, and they also feel like they have more in common with you than their own culture and stuff. So that's where it's really started uh,
Hmm.
working,
Hmm.
like getting like I see where this is going. This is really getting interesting. So I really enjoyed starting then, and I don't know how much of it is just I get to keep the gold nuggets by nature of
Yeah.
just watching a playthrough.
Yeah. I love the moment between when Harold is first, like when Wii was just laying there, essentially unconscious, and he's just like unloading everything on his mind to Wii. He's like treating it as like a therapy session, and he's like, "Oh, I finally have a friend I can say everything to." And I found that moment like so heartwarming, but also hilarious at the same time. And also, there was these other like running gags too that were like Harold's like his biggest point of conversation is he loves to complain about the tube system. Anytime like it's his turn to like add something to the conversation, he just complains about the tube system. And I think that's like one of the funniest like running gags. Richard, did you play the game or finish it?
I played a couple of hours of it, and I wanted to come here today to kind of learn more about it because I really disliked it, and I thought, and like because I know that potentially, if I like push through, some of the kind of slowness, so there might have been something I couldn't get past my first impression of it. I guess the thing I found of it was that it actually felt really like underwritten to me from like my perspective. Like Harold didn't actually have like much to him as a protagonist, and I also didn't feel like the game story like I didn't feel like it had like a point of view about it. So, for example, like at the beginning of the game, the Sty, his friend, basically breaks something so he can electrocute Harold, and it just sort of happens. And like the game doesn't sort of like it doesn't afford Harold any sort of like quiet dignity, like he's a person with like depth to it. It just sort of happens, and Harold goes, "Oh, that sucks," and it's like goes, "Yeah." I know, like it's almost like when there's almost like yeah, like no point of view. There's no real kind of like fallback. Does the game want me to sort of see that Harold has like hidden depths? You know, he's like an everyman, working class, salt of the earth, but he's been treated badly. But the game doesn't seem to really care that much about Harold. They all felt quite flat in his opening few hours, and I really struggled to get past it, which is a shame because maybe it picks up.
Yeah, well, it's funny you say that because that's kind of part of his character, right? Like as we explore Harold and later on you realize he is just like this all the time, but then he starts to have these more like introspective thoughts towards the end of the game and you realize what's going on. Yeah, Matt, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, like, Richard, did you at least reach the point where you have the alien encounter? Like, did you get to that?
Yeah, and then I still wasn't that excited.
Okay.
I honestly, I had my impression of it, like a lot of the dialogue, is it felt like it was either written in a second language or it was translated out of a foreign language. Not in the sense that it was bad, but it was delivered in this sort of weirdly, flatly kind of expositional way. Like,
it was delivered weird sometimes for some of the characters. Like Moreau specifically, I found the way she would react to things would be like not what I would expect ever. She'd always be like, "Harold, what are you like?" Yeah. And it's like it's not really worth that type of like reaction. But weirdly, like the way you're describing Harold is like kind of what makes him the most interesting character toward the end. Is that he is this sort of like he has nothing going on, and that's sort of like what he thinks about is like, is this all I do, right? Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, sorry. I do have a lot of thought of just because I do think it's that point, right, where you find the alien Awiu, and then it is a weird how slow you spend the time waking them up, and then you go to their planet, right, or their, how do you describe it, right, their home, and you meet the rest of them, and that is kind of where the game turns a bit. But it's also, I think, the point where it kind of hit me, like that's the point it hit me that this game is kind of, I don't know if it's fully intentional, right? If it is what you're describing, where maybe it's written in a language or not, but that's the point where it hit me that this is a children's book. Like it is the level of a children's book, and that all the characters are very one note. They have just kind of one personality, like kind of one quirk. They don't really change over the course of the game, and I think part of it, what really hit it for me, is that the game doesn't even really care about. It is a very interesting setting they've got going there, but no one's that stressed about anything. The whole they're running out of energy is treated very, very low key. It doesn't seem like it's actually that big a deal at all. And then the fact that they get like a translator that just immediately translates the language of the alien. The moment that happened, I'm like, okay, this game does not care about those sort of things. Like that's not.
But that's just a convenient.
I know, but and absolutely, you're right. But the game just really glosses over it, like to the level of it just feels very much like you were stupid for even thinking about like there's just no acknowledgement. And when it got to that point, and because it is a bit strange too, because that right at that point where, and sorry if I'm talking too long here, but that's also the point where they introduce you to the alien world. And there's a weird point where I'm flirting between these two ideas of, okay, this is for children, but also they bring up, like, they start doing little touches on gender and communism, the contrast of their societies. And there's like a moment there where you're like, okay, is this going to be, are we going to go into some interesting themes here? And one thing I'm very surprised, I'll say this and then I'll move on, but I'm surprised because the game does not ever have conflict between the humans and the aliens. you know,
yeah, it kind of subverts your expectations there, right?
yeah.
When everyone else found out, you expected something bad to happen because that's typically what happens in these types of scenarios. It's like, no, we just expanded the tube system there.
Yeah, and there's like no
And
tension.
now we're going to explore the
They
energy,
just
right?
perfectly coexist. Like there's no tension of, oh, you know, we're different, and it's just a really weird thing that there is a little bit of tension in the game, but that is something the game is just completely like, no, that's not, we're not talking about that. That doesn't matter. And that just feels like it does, again, feels very children's book to be like, no, we've got like the thing we're lasering in on here, and like don't be thinking about, like, keep your blinders on. So that's my kind of point.
So maybe I can offer some context on what you just mentioned. Both the like universal translator of suddenly we can hear anything and like the peaceful first contact kind of situation to me was very reminiscent of Star Trek. I haven't found evidence of that the creators were inspired by that online, but those two themes are very, very Star Trek to me, where for some reason there's a universal translator and we gloss over the logistics of understanding each other and overall collaboration working well. I thought it was refreshing that, like, obviously with the energy crisis and us arriving to the cave, I have the moments where it's like, oh no, I really hope we don't mess things up for the aliens. But yeah, I would be extremely surprised if Star Trek wasn't like a big inspiration for these kind of alien stories.
Yeah, for sure. I can see that. Where like, and they're also bipedal, right? They walk in 2 feet instead of being like some, you know, monstrosity or something.
They change the forehead and that's it.
Yeah, basically. It's like, even with the energy, you know, that's like the biggest difference between like the humans and like the what are they called? What are they called? Like the beings starts with an F.
Flumen or something.
Flumen,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Between the humans and the Flumen is like, they're like, oh, you have this energy source. Let's go investigate where it's coming from. And they're like, I don't know, we never thought about that. It's just like, it works for us, so we're good. But then that's what makes like Weibo kind of different, is that like Weibo has like this sort of like intrigue to, I'm going to explore a little bit, you know, I have a shoe in my room. But I never even made like, I should have, but like the whole connection with like communism and stuff, right? And like their way of life versus like the humans' way of life.
Well, I think because they bring up, maybe they don't say communism, but at some point,
no,
she's like, money. She's like, why do you have money? Yes. What is that? So.
Yeah, 100%. So we have the Fedora, we have like the Flumen land, and then towards the end, as like the sort of like third place to explore, there's like this sort of what I like describe as like the 2001 Space Odyssey trip that you go through at the end, right? And that's obviously the most, for anyone who made it that far, that's like the most compelling part of the game, because you're like, I want to know what's in this energy tunnel. I want to know what happens when you go in there. And of course, Harold and we will ultimately end up going in there. And you go through this whole, I don't even really know how to describe what's happening, but like this whole like acid trip of where all this energy is coming from.
Trip,
yeah. But during that time, there's like these crazy scenes that happen, right? Where like Harold's getting incredibly introspective about like his own life and what he does and his purpose. Well, Wee Woo was just kind of like there for the ride. And I think if you make it that far, it's worth it for that point, right? It's worth it to see that through. And then there's like a whole sort of additional chapter beyond that, where actually we didn't even touch on them, but there's a character of like Slippy or Schlippy, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Who this is like one of the weirdest quirks of this game among all the quirks, is that so Slippy is he runs one of the shops or one of the stores in the Fedora, which is the ship. And in the Agora arcade, he runs Slippy's something. But essentially, it's like a winter sports type area where there's like a little mini ski hill. You can put on winter jackets, and he has installed AC in everyone's unit, right? And so he's really promoting this sort of like winter sport thing. And then there's two ways, because ultimately what they want to do is they want to power up the ship again to leave. And Cyrus, who's like the real scientist, has his ideas. And then Slippy's like, no, I'll just like freeze the water around us so we can lift off of or we can float to the top and then lift off, right? And then I don't even know if I fully understood it, but towards the end of the game, it's like Slippy actually wants to freeze everything to make like a place where he can have like his winter sport like wonderland. And it's just like, it's so insane, and like it is hard to buy into, but it sort of I don't know, every character really stands out to me for that reason, because they all have like these crazy quirks, right? And like even Chris, like there's like the little attention to detail where like Chris is like watching his little novella on the TV. And then like one of my favorite things is how one of the Flumans he just chose to kind of like buddy up with. And he's like, you see him in the classroom, like showing, just like teaching him about things, right? Because he's a teacher, or like showing him how to like work out because he's like working out all the time. And it's just all these little details that you can miss if you don't notice them too. I want to read Ari's notes here, because like, they put them in, and it's a good synopsis of their perspective. So I said, I'll just dump my thoughts in the chat, but I think that what won me over in this game, despite its flaws, is how the doldrum of it is incorporated into the narrative. I can't say every moment of tedium was 100% intended, but I do feel like the one-note fetch quest aspect really solidifies the meaningless he communicates later, which is true. It's kind of funny because we're complaining about the gameplay of the game, but then that's also why Harold's kind of complaining about it in the end. Also agree with the note that slow build allows it to feel more like real bonding than otherwise would. It's true. I guess if we were just like, if it was like a pure video game with like a capital G, we wouldn't be like maybe getting as attached to the characters, but because we're forced to like sit through these slow moments.
I think they call that Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. But yeah.
I actually read somewhere that they were planning to put lots of like puzzly gameplay aspects into the game. They actually cut most of it out because I think they just wanted to focus on the narrative and the characters and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And obviously, like, I think for most of us, I wouldn't call that a good idea necessarily, because it does make it very boring, especially in the first half. Real quick, I just want to point one thing I wanted to know before I forget it. Speaking to like the doldrums and the boringness of the game almost being intentional. One of my favorite parts, besides like kind of like the other music sequences, there's a scene, like I think it's in the first chapter, maybe second, where he bursts out into song, but without any backup music or anything. It's just like him singing to his mom.
Oh yeah.
And he's got like the voice actor has a great voice, and it's like, you're sort of expecting like the what do you call it? The cliches of a musical where it's like, suddenly there's like a visual background thing going on and like backup singers and instruments and stuff. But it's just him. And then like when he finishes the song, he's just like, all right, continues to mop up. I thought that was kind of like a good little, like, oh yeah, his life is truly boring. Where like even like, when you would kind of expect this sort of like breakthrough to occur, it still isn't happening for him.
Yeah,
it
means
he's still
nothing.
Kind of stuck in his world. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was my fate of the kind of couple of hours, 2.5 hours I play. I can't remember that bit where he sings in the, is it like the
filter?
Containment tank?
Yeah.
The containment, like a filter thing, is by far my favorite moment in the game, because that felt like, because I think I'm not sure I kind of, from a design point of view, agree with the notion that the best way to make someone relate or understand the boredom of someone is to be forced to repeat boring activity.
Yeah.
Because that would suggest that every movie that's about people in a similar situation has to be an 8-hour-long movie for you to understand it. Like, But devices like that singing are like a really good way where you kind of you do some repetitive task, and then you have a moment where you can talk about how boring his life is, but in a way that's really fun and exciting as like a
for sure,
as a player. Because I felt like a lot of just like the activities, as well as being boring, I also felt like weirdly, and this is probably something which you guys understand better than me, it actually did a really poor job of giving me insight into who Harold was and what he was actually doing. Because I didn't understand what his job was. Because I felt like, oh, you're the janitor. But then they would keep asking about science stuff, and you would keep looking at things through the scanners and coming to conclusions about it.
He's just like a general handyman, I guess, right?
Yeah, like what is he from like a kind of, not to kind of oversimplify things, but from like a basic screenwriting point of view. If I wanted to understand, he's the janitor who everyone kind of, treats badly, but he secretly has all of his depth to him, all the humanity of his knowledge. You kind of make it clear. But like, was he her lab assistant, or was he the janitor, or what is he? And he didn't really seem to have much perspective on what he was doing. But there was like a muddiness to it, and I felt like, whereas I felt like that singing bit was like really clear. It was like a really clear kind of moment. Oh, that's what he feels like. That's his like his musical number.
That's his calling in that moment. Yeah, no, I hear you. And like, look, yeah, we obviously don't need to make a game boring to understand that someone has a boring life. I just think that like in our case, when, you know, there's a club that's essentially forcing you to play through the game, you're going to have that experience, right? You're going to be like, okay, now I get it, I guess. And did you, as you were going through, did you try and read all of the messages that would come through your little PDA thing, like catch up on the conversations? So like usually like after like a period of time passes, like after like a cutscene or something, you would notice you have like 15 missed messages and it's like conversations that happened during that time period. Did you keep up with all that?
Yeah, I love the drawings as well. The drawings you get, you know, they're really nice. I
think they must have been drawn by like a kid, right? Because it looked like kid drawings.
I think it's an artist who's intentionally drawing poorly, because there was a couple other like art pieces in the game that were better done, but kind of in the similar style. So there's like an artist called David Strigley, I think. Very similar, which is like childish, intentional looking. But that for sure was like pretty much one of the only incentives, especially early on, to do side quests. Even it's just like, oh, I've got a funny drawing in the end, and you know, it's not much, obviously, but that for sure made me like
something to look forward to.
Hit. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Anne, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, listening through like everyone's reaction, I feel like our experiences ended up very different by virtue of watching a playthrough and realizing. So yeah, I couldn't really like at the start. I did read those like PDA messages, but yeah, no. Towards the end, I was like, gotta get to the ending. Well, and so I can't say I experienced the same kind of. Maybe I had the optimal experience of like at the start you experience the boredom and the pacing, and like as you said, maybe you don't need to sit through 8 hours of like back and forth through the tube system.
I think
I probably missed it.
I was just gonna say, like, I think like building on that, like I think that is why like a lot of us who played it are like, this should have been a movie. You know? Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think it should have been a movie. Sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I don't think it necessarily needed to be a movie, but it needed to be shorter. Like it needed to be 5 hours or something like that. Like cut, you know, the first two chapters should have been an hour. You know, like they should have gone to the cave pretty quickly. However, even contradicting myself, I will say like trudging through to the end, it really makes you appreciate those moments. Like I said, like when I got into the cave, that's like when the game was like, whoa, like, you know, especially because like you're in 2D most of the game, and then when you enter the cave, it's like suddenly you're kind of in a 3, like the camera's behind you and in front of you, and it's like dynamic and stuff like that. And it really made me feel like this is an alien world, because you're just so used to the 2D monotony, right, of the space station.
Had to have been intentional for that reason, right?
For sure.
How long is the game?
Like, I think it took me like 13 hours.
There's an achievement. Jesus. It's funny. Yeah, there's an achievement where if you play for 15 hours, you'll get an achievement. It's like playing, and like it's called like the Slow Bros achievement or something like that.
That's funny.
It also sounds like you all, at least a couple of you, also did the side quests a lot. So I'm curious to. I also found myself like going to read Buddy's letters, etc. But those were also fully optional, and so I'm wondering which part, like, what compels us to, like, we all found the game slow, but we still all did the side
no,
quest.
it's a great question. I think because like we were like, please, like surprise me with something, because like ultimately the reason why we all find it boring is like. The game world is fantastic. Like I love the fedora. I love like this alien race. Like the characters I really am into. Even like how weirdly delivered Harold's lines are. I find it interesting about his character. It's because the game, if it was more of like an adventure game where like you are solving puzzles and stuff, it's engaging some part of your brain, right? And so suddenly you're immersed, or suddenly you're like you're dialed in because you're like, oh, I have to think for a second. But the majority of the game is more or less run to the next person, listen to the conversation. And then in some cases you get to a point where like, okay, I'm going to fast forward through the conversation because I'm reading it, right? And it's kind of funny, actually, in most games, when you skip through dialogue, you know, it goes to the next line. but because they have like these animations they have to go through, it just like fast forwards like their little animation and then like goes to the next one. I wonder if that was just like some quick fix they had to like speed things up. But yeah, at no point does the game be like, figure this out, right? Or like it's more just like, do you wonder what's next? And then like the next few days are more or less like the same. But yeah, I think like as Matt was agreeing, like the reason why we did the side quests because there wasn't much else to do, right? If a side quest pops up, it's like, oh great. And also speaking of the side quests, I feel bad for Matt and anyone else who is like very much a completionist because like I figured out early on, like, okay, I can't find that damn bird. I'm not going to go around a ship looking for it. It's probably going to pop up at some point, right? Just like naturally. And then I'm sure there are some people who just like scan the entire place because like, I have to solve it now and like wasted so much of their time.
Yep.
Were you one of those people? Okay.
Yeah.
I had a feeling. Yeah.
But hey, it was also a good lesson. Like after doing that, you realize like, yeah, the game's never gonna give me a time that I need to go find something. All right.
I think it was after that point where I stopped. Like that was pretty early on, like in the first couple hours. Yeah. I'm like, okay, I'm not doing the side quests. I'm just gonna, or like I'll do them as I please, but I'm not gonna like laundry list check them off. However, okay, so one thing I want to say, so I'll say that a lot of the side quests don't really pay off for me at least. But there are some like diamond in the roughs that do pay off, and I think that's another reason why I didn't finish all of them, but I completed a majority of them. And big shout out to one of the final side quests. It's the buddy mail delivery quest. It's like one of the longest ones and most tedious. Where it's like spoilers, but
I was going to mention it too.
Game, yeah, halfway through the game, Buddy dies. He's the mailman. He's like this kind of energetic old man. And you're kind of somehow bequeathed this like pile of letters that you have to deliver to people around the station, and it's very much a slog. Like if people that play the game know, going from point A to point B, times is not fun because you have to go through all these loading screens, and it's not very entertaining.
You made the right choice, Richard.
I feel like I'm having a panic attack just hearing you describe delivering mail to me.
Yeah,
but I will say it does pay off, like that quest specifically, because you get letters as you're delivering these letters. You're kind of getting letters from Buddy, kind of post death, where he's like, "Oh, like thanks for doing this for me, even though I'm dead." And then in the end, you have he's like, "Okay, this is the last letter I want you to deliver," and it's to that Fabio guy I was mentioning, where we want to have. They used to have like jogging races all the time. Yeah, Chris.
Yeah.
And he's like, "I want to do one last race, so I want you to fold this letter up into a paper plane. I want to race Chris." And it's this very touching moment where it's like, like they're running down this hallway, and I think Chris, it's kind of up to interpretation, but I feel like Chris almost lets him win in a way, and he's kind of like, "Oh, like you beat me one last time," like he's like kind of getting choked up, and he's this kind of like macho Johnny Bravo type of guy, and he's kind of getting choked up, and Harold's like, "Oh, you all right?" He's like, "Oh yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, everything's good." And like the music's getting all kind of swelled up and stuff, but I love that part, and so like that was kind of like. That definitely made me think like, okay, like what other side quests have this kind of ending or impact to it? Because like that made me interested in completing.
Yeah, but the sad thing is like that's such a good moment, like that paper airplane moment, but like it's buried in this really tedious side quest that by that point, like you may not want to entertain, right? Because you're like, I want to get through this game, right? Yeah, Matt.
I thought about that. I think what frustrates me about it is it is very touching, but I feel like most of the lesson is just, man, isn't it sad when people die? Like it's there's no the emotional core of it like almost doesn't relate to the concept.
It's more like who these characters are at this point, right? Yeah. And that's what makes it emotional.
Yeah,
I think it's less so just like because it's a very like the game varies because people have been mentioning how it's like. It's like, is it childish or is it fairy tale like? And I think it is in a way, but obviously for adults. And obviously, like, even I don't think it succeeded in a lot of its whatever mission statements. But I think, especially because it's such a slow paced game, especially by the time you complete that quest, it's late in the game. I was like surprised, like, oh man, like I really felt for Buddy. Like and actually for a lot of people on the ship, even though, again, a lot of them were two-dimensional. I found myself kind of getting like not choked up, but like, aw, like Buddy had one last farewell or something like that.
Speaking of getting emotional, and you mentioned you got emotional towards the end. What was it? Was it just like the overall theming of the end that got to you, or was it like a specific moment where you're like, that kind of like hit me in the feels?
So I guess for context, I am an immigrant. So anytime there's a story about,
Mhm.
I mean, I saw the whole Fedora thing with like their second, third, fourth generation immigrant. There's this whole theme where like none of them even remember Earth.
Mhm.
They're kind of this journey that they didn't really choose to embark on. And throughout, like with Wii U, you get the sense, at least in this acid trip, I remember a moment where Wii U makes a reference to like, oh, have you ever felt like you had to choose between two fish? And Harold is like, oh, just keep the two fishes. And Wii U is like, oh, but one of them is leaving. So you start getting the sense that Wii U is
Yeah.
thinking of leaving with the Fedora. And obviously, in the end, I guess we can fully spoil, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Richard isn't planning on going back in.
I'm enjoying this though. I'm actually getting a lot more out of this than the games.
So to me, when finally there's the goodbye and they do say goodbye to each other, and they like, I don't know, I really vibe with the whole idea of, first of all, Harold feeling like he's more chill than the humans who are more adventurous, and Wii U is more adventurous than the rest of the Flum. I don't remember the name. So them feeling super close to each other because they're kind of the outcasts in different directions, but then they kind of end up like in the middle, like vibing with each other. And obviously, when finally, Harold realizes, actually, I want to stay and chill with, like, I want to basically stay here.
Yeah.
That got to me. Like, I thought it was very well done to like, like the foreshadowing. I really thought it was going to be Wii U coming with us. I guess very human centric, but
Yeah.
I think it flipped itself a little bit of like, oh no, it's like the human could decide to chill with the aliens forever, and so that got to me. But I think it's also, as an immigrant, like I've decided to stay in Canada, so it was like, oh god, it's my feels kind of thing, and it worked very well for me.
Yeah, it's like a great analog that I wouldn't even think of, like, because I'm not an immigrant, I wouldn't even think of like making that comparison to that perspective. But like, you're totally right. Another small thing you just reminded me of, not like an emotional moment, but just kind of made the character feel like in that moment, made them feel more real, is when Harold first arrives in the alien planet and he starts freaking out because he's walking on rocks. Because all he's ever known is like walking on like a solid metal surface, right? And he's like, he's overwhelmed with the sensation of like standing on like a rocky surface. Because like to him, like, something he reads about and hears about, but like being like the whatever third, fourth generation of living on that ship has never experienced something like that, right? And I'm sure part of that discovery, along with everything else he experiences with like Wii U, also makes him want to stay. But it was a really, really, really good stuff, and I'm glad you brought that to the table here. Like, that's a good perspective to have on the ending. I guess I'll ask anyone else. Were you all? How did you feel towards and you just explained your perspective. How did you feel towards the end of the game? Were you like, you know what, even though that was like kind of boring, I'm glad I saw it through? Or were you like, man, I wish I had those like 13 hours back?
Well, it's funny. Oh yeah, sorry. I'll just steal it real quick.
No, go ahead.
At the end, like, especially after beating the game, like being done with it, like, this is kind of how I rank games in a way. It's like, how does the game make me feel post game? Like, do I feel good or do I feel bad or annoyed or whatever? And even though, again, like, I was like literally falling asleep to some of the early chapters, at the end I was like, that was like, I feel good about the game and like I feel happy. And like again, like I was saying earlier, like connected to the characters. And especially like I was literally almost getting choked up for the final. There's like when he's kind of walking away from the from Weeboo supposedly for the last time, Wii U for the last time, and That Bad Not Good comes out, Toronto's own. I was like, whoa! First of all, when that song was coming on, I'm like, oh, they're getting this song. This is so sick.
Yeah, that was a good pull.
Okay, one thing I will critique though about that scene is that you're kind of walking through the cave while the whole song basically plays. It's in slow motion, so you can like there's like a dozen aliens you're kind of like waving by to.
Yeah,
we don't interact with it. Yeah, it's just like a slow walk, and
Yeah.
like the song plays out in full. But there's no like you don't really interact with any of these aliens, right? Like you obviously see Wii for most of the game, but
Mhm.
it's like by random alien I've seen like walking around in the background like a couple of times, and I would have loved to have had especially side missions with the aliens. You don't do. I don't think there's any really. Maybe one or two, but I can't
There's a
even
thing with the
remember.
kids where you're just like going in circles playing with them or whatever.
Oh yeah, and that was cool. But I for sure would have that. It would have been way more impactful if you had spent a lot more time on the in the cave, and you're like,
Hmm.
oh my god, I'm saying goodbye to these aliens. Like it would have even been more impactful if in the end when you do decide to stay in the cave, to have like a kind of goodbye song with the crew of the Fedora, right? Because it's like, okay, like like for instance, Chris, the bodybuilder. It's like, oh my god, like goodbye to him forever. Like even though I've only known him for 10 hours, it's like, oh, like I'm never gonna see him again, man. That's crazy.
Hmm. I'll say my feelings on it are like I I'm glad I experienced it because I feel like the people behind the game put in so much love and effort into like what it was they wanted to create. Despite how we feel about maybe the story or the gameplay or whatever, just from like a presentation point of view, I think it deserves to be experienced. Even if like Richard only saw like a few hours, I'm glad he saw that because this is still like a very unique achievement. I feel like, to have a game that looks like this and is like even a little bit interactive. Matt, how did you feel?
I guess I would contrast it with the game we played 2 months ago. I think I might have mentioned in the chat somewhere, Angeline Era.
Yeah.
And when Graham says that, like how do you feel at the end of it? Like what are you kind of left with? I definitely feel a little more positive, weirdly, than Angeline Era, but I have to admit, Angeline Era was a much more interesting game. The gameplay, there was definitely a lot more there. There was more substance. I definitely still like enjoyed it and got through it, but the end of Angeline Era unfortunately left me in a very like almost mad state. Like I'm just like frustration and just bad
Yeah.
vibes. So somehow the vibes, yeah, did overcome it. But then I still think it's kind of Stockholm syndrome. Like I think it is just a bit of I spent
think
so
a
much
little
time
bit.
in it. Yeah. So
Yeah.
Yeah, the investment.
I recommend checking out the Angeline Era chat if you're curious because it does go a little off the rails. I was going to say, for Anne, have you played Chance of Sonar?
I have, and I
Okay,
enjoyed it
I was
thoroughly.
going to say, if you found this compelling, you'd probably love Chance of Sonar. But yeah,
Yeah, I loved it.
yeah, that's an adventure game done right. Okay, if anyone else has anything else to add to Harold Halibut, otherwise I will move on to finish this up. Any final thoughts?
I guess question is, would you recommend it to people? Because I was already ambivalent before this conversation, and I feel like out of everyone, I enjoyed it the most.
No, that's a great question. Okay, well, I'll start with you. Would you recommend it to someone, or would you recommend it with them with like a caveat? Like you say, you should play this, but
yeah, it would definitely be a but for like, I think I would need to recommend it to people who have at least some affinity to the sci-fi setting. So friends who are into Star Trek, I think immediately would recommend.
Yeah.
But I think my pitch would be loved it. Only do it if you have time on your hands, or can maybe I can't tell if it's best. I experienced it in a very binge way, where I got through it within a weekend and loved it. And I don't know if the other extreme of doing, I don't know, half an hour a day would work. I don't know.
Yeah, that's how I played it. I basically played like half an hour to like an hour or so, like a day. And I don't know if that made it. I couldn't imagine playing like 4 hours, 5 hours straight. I'm sure Matt did that, but like I, I don't know if I could. I don't know if I could do the stomach that. I think I would. The thing is, it's the kind of game I want to tell people exist. I want to be like, hey, these people made this like crazy work of art. This is what it's like. Don't play it. Just look up some screenshots and watch some videos. But like, this is, it's cool.
I also think I would recommend it to anyone who's currently like, I feel like it's very for adult in the sense that the themes I think only work for like when you feel a little like anyone who's slightly depressed, I think would work well. I would say like
they might
if you can
relate
vibe with
Harold.
Harold, exactly. Anyone who might relate to Harold, like you feel like you're doing repetitive things and you kind of lost your purpose and you don't know where you're going. I think probably who I would recommend it to.
Yeah. The losing purpose thing can definitely hit home sometimes.
And like I think one of the first things that Professor Moreau says around like, oh, like I don't have my heads in the clouds. It's that there's nothing interesting going on, and she hits you with, I don't know what's worse to, like I don't remember the exact quote, but it's something like, I don't know what's worse, being lost in the clouds or being bored by everything. And I thought that was a very
Yeah.
Like, that was a good hook for me, at least.
There's a lot of good nuggets like that buried in this game. And if you stick around and find them, you will. Anyone else want to speak to recommending it? Otherwise, I will.
I think I would recommend it too, with a caveat that's like it is slow. Like, there's no denying that there's pacing problems, and you have to kind of like, if you don't like walking simulators or like very old school adventure games, like there's a good chance you'll bounce right off of it. But again, like in the end, I think I didn't feel like in the end, like, oh my God, I wasted 10 hours of my life. Not that it couldn't have been better for sure, but I think I would like lean on the side of recommendation, or at least like talking about why I liked it, and then like let the person figure it on their own. Like, oh yeah, that sounds like a game for me.
I know this sounds like the biggest insult, but I know you also said this earlier, Graham, that you like fell asleep a few times. And like at the beginning, I definitely did too. Like when I was just like in between things, and I was going back and forth through the corridors, I would start like nodding off, and normally I have like 1 cup of caffeine a day, but when I was playing this game, I would start having 2 because I'm like, okay, I gotta log in and like play this, and not exactly the most ringing endorsement for the game, but it's interesting. If you read the Steam reviews, even the positive ones, a lot of them talk about the same things we're talking about, or like everything is like so great, everything is like a 10 out of 10, but like it is like a slog to play through. But yeah, that's why I would recommend. And I normally am not a fan of like watching people play games, like watching playthroughs, but this is one that really warrants it, I feel. But yeah. Okay, this was great. This was a good discussion on Harold Halibut. Let's move on to see what's going on next month. Oh, thanks, Matt. Okay, so if you look at my screen, you'll see some floating guys, a little screensaver thingy. So I'll go ahead and reveal the game, and I'll speak to why we are playing it for 2 months. Does anyone have any guesses of what it is, if you don't already know? I think Matt maybe knows. Maybe?
I got a hint from somebody, so I shouldn't guess.
Okay. All right.
I was guessing maybe that Peak game, but yeah, I'm not sure.
What game?
What's it called? It's like a multiplayer game that's coming out soon.
Well, let's see. The game of August and September will be Big Walk.
That's the one. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Right. So if you don't already know, I definitely highly recommend checking out one of the trailers, because like they're super charming. But Big Walk is developed by House, which are the developers of Untitled Goose Game. Not that this game is anything like that, but that was like a super fun game, right? I see Anne is surprised to hear that. So what is Big Walk? Big Walk is a cooperative multiplayer adventure about teamwork and talking. If you ever played Peak, when that was very popular, it's similar to that. Not exactly, but same kind of genre. So like in gaming vernacular, people like to describe these as friend slop. And this is like the ultimate like end game friend slop game, which is a great thing. It's a good thing. So why 2 months? Well, 2 reasons. Big Walk is like a social multiplayer game. And so we want to make sure we give everyone a chance, like ample time to like organize play sessions, whether it's like with your own friends, or if you want to like try and play with the community members of the Indie Video Game Book Club. And also September is full of big releases. So like tons of huge games are coming out in September, because GTA is coming out in like October or November. So that's why. So there's a good chance that a lot of people are going to be like double dipping and want to play like a bunch of different games during that time. And so by having this game over the course of 2 months and also having to organize play sessions, this gives people like tons of time to like, go in and play a few sessions. So I don't have all the details just yet, but I will be posting them in the Discord eventually on how things will work. So again, you can organize your own sessions with your own friends, but we're also going to be hosting scheduled sessions within the club. So if you want to, we'll say like, okay, on Saturday at 6 p.m., we're having a session and so from the group is going to host it. And then like, I think you can have up to 8 people play at a time. But yeah, I think if you get like 3-4 sessions of this game in, you'll have enough to talk about. And again, definitely, if you don't know what this is, definitely check out one of the trailers on YouTube. It'll tell you everything you need to know about it. And also, this is not confirmed, but we're thinking of having the actual discussion about Big Walk in Big Walk. That might be fun. So we'll have like as many of us as we can fit in the game, and then we'll stream that to what we're looking at now. So then everyone else can also participate. I'm sure it'll be like a logistical nightmare, but we'll figure it out. So Big Walk releases on August 4th, which is coming up on PC, Mac, PlayStation, and Switch. Switch 2 specifically, and PlayStation 5. But yeah, so that'll be it. That'll be a lot of fun, I think. I think it also gives people time to enjoy the rest of their summer too by having this over the course of the next 2 months. And yeah, I'm looking forward to playing this with people. That is all. Anyone have anything else they want to add to Big Walk being the game? Anyone
Real quick, I just wanted to ask if it's cross-platform at all.
Cross-platform? Good question. I think the answer is yes. I imagine that's a big... thank you, Matt. Yeah.
Yeah, I was taking a look into just some of the multiplayer details a couple of weeks back, and yeah, it is cross-platform. So,
and is it, do you know, Matt, is it 8 players?
Up to 12.
12. Okay, awesome. That's even better.
Yeah. And so just as the basis for how the game works from what I've read is that the person who hosts the game, they are the controllers of that save file. So anyone can join and fill in the roles. Like you don't have to have the same players every single time. That host just has to spin up the game, and I guess whatever's been completed in the world will be completed. You can continue from there. But if you join someone else's game, you'll be starting with their save file instead. So you might want to coordinate your play sessions depending on it. Like, you might just want to drop into other people's sessions and contribute to what you know, or stick with the same session every single time so that you can see the game from beginning to end.
Yeah, I also imagine this is the way this game is. It's not going to be the biggest deal if you jump in partway through someone's session and you're just there to help out, because like it's not. I don't know. I mean, I can't speak to it, but I don't think it's an adventure you need to experience from beginning to end. It's like you can jump in and hey, here's some more tasks to do, some more fun puzzles or whatever. But yeah, we'll get more details soon. I'll speak with the other members of the club, and we'll organize some sessions in the coming weeks. And also, I think for the first 2 weeks when the game releases, there's a discount. It's like a 25% discount if you buy it then. So keep that in mind. But yeah, okay, this was great. This was a fun discussion. Thanks, everyone. I really enjoy talking about games like Halibut, where like, it's not just a game where everyone's like, loved it, nothing more to say. It's like when there's like these sort of divisive opinions, it just makes for such a good conversation. And I think we should play more mid-range bad games for that reason. But yeah. Okay, cool. All right. Thanks, everyone. I will see you in Big Walk. Bye.
Bye.